Hey everyone, I'm David Room. Today we are going to continue on with some low poly 3D modeling with Python, but I haven't been on for a while, and that's because I've been working on some stuff that is really interesting and honestly really tricky. Um, Specifically, low poly modeling of clothing for characters. I've had this kind of vision for a long time, and I maybe since the end of last year have been going after this idea of making these low poly characters with a couple of different applications. One being the game that I've done a lot of development on this channel, and the other application being uh, toys. So I'm a toy collector. I find toys to be really interesting, and I am kind of working on my own sort of different approach to making action figures uh, based on kind of inspired by Star Wars action figures. So um, I've kind of made one round of prototypes of these figures. And what I'm working on right now is a bunch of revisions to these low poly character models with better details, better anatomy, things like that. And I'm hoping to kind of get the second round of prototypes going here very soon. And I'm having a difficult time because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and it's like the further you get into this stuff, um, it's like sort of a compounding 80-20 rule where um, the first little bit seems really doable, and then you start doing stuff that's more detailed and more complex, and it gets a lot more complicated and things. But I think I'm quite close to the second round of prototypes, and I just figured out some really nice things that I want to work on today. So I'm gonna get started here. I'm gonna throw some music on, some good old white bat, and kind of talk about what we're doing here. Um, yeah, so let me just retweet on Twitter saying that I'm live now in case anybody wants to hang out. It's quite late here, so I'm not necessarily expecting. I think I'm actually got logged out. I'm not expecting too many people to stop by, but I wanted to work on this. And I've been thinking for a few days that the thing that I want to work on tonight would be a nice thing to stream, because I think it's pretty well defined. But we'll see. Sometimes there's unexpected complications. But okay. All right. So let me just show a little bit of what the current status of things is. So, and let me know if the music is too loud or not loud enough or whatever. I'm still working these things out. So, let's see here. So, I think it was back in about February I started working on like making specific characters. I had this kind of low polyhumans framework that I've been expanding on, and this this was kind of a moment of revelation here when I went through and actually implemented something like Loomis ideal proportions for this female character, and she started actually looking like a real person. And then let's see here. Around this time I was working on some general 3D printing functionality for ships, kind of getting this character into the game. I worked a bunch on the sort of monster character, and then action figure specific stuff, and how to separate this character into pieces and turn the meshes that don't really have to have nice properties for a game into manifold meshes for 3D printing. And printed some prototypes, made some iterations, fairly simple stuff. I also experimented with painting with acrylic paint pens, and I got pretty good results. Like nothing that looks crazy, but I think decent results for my first pass at this. So we're ready for the second round, and I started on a male character. And the thing that I've been working on over the past month or two is specifically something I call clothing details. So I have these approaches for, given the underlying character, building the clothing, but I think the interesting bit of clothing is these details like collars and lapels and things, and I want a process that's sort of semi-automated, that doesn't require too much fiddling around, to be able to create these shapes in such a way that they both look good for a game and can be turned into these manifold meshes that can be 3D printed. And I had a couple breakthroughs of some kind of common tools and approaches for doing this stuff that I'll probably get into a little bit more as I'm programming today. But the two main things are being able to control the positions of things by projecting on an underlying mesh, and then interpolating along those directions. So like if you have lapels, for instance, and they're like winging too far out from the body of the coat, projecting those points down to the coat and then like interpolating. And because this is all sort of like soft cloth type stuff, I don't have to worry about preserving nice planar faces or anything. And then the other thing is like in this figure and the original figures, I'm creating clothes by sort of slicing through the underlying meshes and then beveling the edges of these slices, and that ends up creating these really large outlines around things that you have to make them really big before you're kind of guaranteed to not have intersections in places that you don't want. And I just came up with a nicer approach that uses splines to do this. And I've had sort of mixed results with splines in the past for my stuff, but I kind of nerd sniped myself into going down a rabbit hole, and I found Catmull ROM splines as the spline method that kind of has a lot of the properties that I'm looking for. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through a lot of the clothing methods, which have this idea of how we're going to slice through limbs to create these outset shapes that we build the clothing out of. And we're going to convert and refactor it so that we can use these different methods for doing that, and be able to replace the original method with this Catmull ROM spline method. So let's get into this. Actually, just quick before I start, I'm going to take a screenshot of where I was at with this yesterday from my visual work logs. So let's just run our bench script here. And I have kind of cleaned things up so we're not being bogged down with too many extra visualizations or like debug details or whatever. And like I'm very excited about this because it's something that I've been working on for a long time, but there are certainly problems here, and we're going to be addressing some of those problems with what we're doing tonight. So let's just get this into the work log here, and I'll show you what my work log entry looks like in just a second once I get it in here. Let's see here. So this is actually 11, and this was like, is this, I think this was tweaks for, yeah. And we're gonna just get a full body shot like this. You can kind of see the problems. I'd like to figure out, actually maybe I can do this right here. Yeah, look at that. There we go. I can get a orthographic perspective. Yeah, nice. Okay, cool. Okay. So you can kind of see the problem here that I'm talking about, where like for instance in these pants, so here's my visual work log page for yesterday. Okay, so like in these pants. Hey, Free Narnian, it's good to see you here. And this whole thing is just such a mess. This is why I haven't been streaming too much lately, is it's super tricky. In these pants, you can see how if we look at the underlying geometry, I want to make something that kind of goes around his legs, but whoops, actually might be easier to see in Blender. Oops. Okay, I want to make something that goes around the underlying geometry without being too big, but it you have these edges that are going through, right? Like I want this kind of rounded shape, and I'd like to be able to make that shape automatically. So the question is, how do I do it? Well, the answer is going to be what we're going to do with Catmull ROM splines. So just sort of a hard-coded version of it, which we're going to replace here. Um, yeah, so just sort of a hard-coded version of it. So our current method looks something like this in how we're, so like this blue part is like the outline of the limb, or the thing that we're building the clothing around, and then the green part is limb, so you can see like how much wasted space there is. And then here, you know, like we're getting those corners poking through. Okay, so what we want is something more like this. Whoops. Something more like this. So this guy, I have a hard-coded value here, which we're gonna get rid of and make that configurable, but we're gonna do something like this. And you can see here we get a nice curved shape that sort of fits tightly without too much extra. And we can always avoid intersecting at those corners, at least where we're cutting the ribs from. So you can see it fits tighter enough that we're getting some clipping through here on the shoulders. It doesn't really work the best for the boots with the current configuration. We get some kind of messed up geometry here, but I think with some tweaks, and we can't completely avoid some manual tweaks. We want to have some manual tweaks because we want to have some artistic control over what we're doing here. I think this approach is going to work. So I've got my Baja Blast here, and we're going to do some refactoring, and I think vibe coding has become a thing since the last time that I've really streamed. For sure, I haven't done a ton of streaming since the beginning of the new year, but this is not vibe coding what we're doing here. I'm not using Copilot, not using AI. This is old-fashioned software engineering. This is fun. I enjoy doing it. I want control over it, so we're gonna dive in here and get this done. Okay, so yeah, so what I want, so throughout the code, there's a few places that we use this loop from slice functionality here in our clothing generation, and currently there are like these two parameters that control how we're doing that, a bevel and an outset. And what we're going to do instead, we're going to turn those configurations into objects that we're going to use then to determine what loop from slice method we're going to use. And then we should be able to kind of toggle back and forth between our original and new methods. And then hopefully by the end of this, we'll have an improved version that's closer to what we want for 3D printing. And fingers crossed, I might even be able to print something tonight. So we'll see. Okay, so let's look at our new record type that we need first. Oh, that's glad. I'm glad that you like working while this is on Free Narnian. Is there something that you're working on? I'm always curious what projects people have. I like listening to live streams late at night when everybody else is in bed. I like having time to myself to work on things, but I sometimes feel like a little bit lonely, and it's nice to have somebody else to listen to while I'm working. So, okay, so for our original method, actually, yeah, we'll just call this loop original. We had our bevel and outset. So our new one our new method, we've got three arguments. Oh, nice. Free Narnian is painting some goblin archers. Well, it's still a project, and this for me is kind of play too, right? So no shame in that. I'm kind of excited because the this action figure thing might actually give me an excuse to actually paint something. I've always thought it'd be fun to get into Warhammer painting, but it's just like I don't have time for that, and you know, I couldn't see myself actually doing it. But this action figure project, like, I feel like I'm figuring out a way to do something like that I will actually be able to do, and that excites me. And I was pretty excited about how well paint pens work. So, okay, so yeah, so for this one we need a outset. We need a alpha, and then the spline parameters are alpha and a subdivision count. Is there another spline parameter? No, it's just alpha. Nice. Okay. So that's, yeah, so it's just outset, alpha, and subs. Okay. Let me just make sure I know where I'm at here. Okay. Okay, so now is where we are going to start breaking stuff. So we're going to make a new loop from slice method that is going to take our mesh, our plane that we're cutting with, and here. What do I want to call this? It's like the parameters of the method. Okay. Nice. Free Narnian says he's excited for it. I'd like to see if I could do battle report videos at some point. Nice. Yeah, that'd be cool. Okay, so it doesn't matter. We'll just call this params for now. And then we're just gonna do dispatch in here. This will return verts and okay, so and let's just say, just for now, let's code this in. So, and what I'd like to do is just do star params, but I don't know if I can do that. And I don't know if I really should. I think I might as well just hard code this in. And this is going to be outset alpha and subs. Okay, so now we got to implement these two functions. So yeah, so this is going to be mostly copying and pasting here. Just gonna check. Oh, nice. We got a few people watching. Okay. Oh, and bevel is optional here. Yeah. Okay. So let's make our slice original. And then the nice thing is once we get this coded up, it's pretty easy to rename things, so we don't really have to worry too much about this. So, whoops. And then we can also, there's some other nice stuff. Man, my highlighting my IDE is like being super laggy right now. Okay. And then our spline method. With mesh plane. Actually, and let's fix that alias here in a second before we go on. So it's going to be outset offset. There's a couple other approaches that I want to try too once I get this configurable that I think might be useful. So the subs here are actually like subdivisions per original edge of the polygon, and a nice approach might be just a total number of subdivisions that are sampled along the spline's time function. That might produce some better, nicer results in some cases. Especially when I get into more complicated shapes. So, I should try that. Rid of this guy. And when I was testing this, I did the outset after the smooth, and I don't think it really matters. But I'm inclined to do it before. Okay, and I see another thing too here. So all of this stuff is gonna have this loop here. So we don't need the mesh and plane. We just want the loop. Yeah, and we can rename stuff later. So, yeah. And it's interesting. I was always doing this flip. I'm gonna see if I can move this flip up here, because I don't have to repeat myself that way. Yeah, these are going to need better names, but that's okay. So we inset it and then bevel it here. We are smoothing it. Get rid of that flip. We're smoothing it according to alpha and subs. And then insetting it according to outset. Okay. And we've gotten rid of our original function, so now there's a couple of we'll call this update stats. we were going to fix that. Yeah. Oh, jeez. Oh no. Dot. There we go. Okay. Okay, so now we have to invoke the correct method. And we're gonna just go for the hard part right away and refactor some of these methods that take a bevel and an outset to take one of those configs. So let's just start. Oh, come on. Okay, let's start with the kind of top level where this stuff is gonna be invoked, which is the characters. So let's take a look at the clothes. So what was I thinking? Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's just do the boots first. So something I like to do here is we'll just make the boots and then we'll just stop there and make sure that that's working. So this might be kind of a mess. Okay, yep, there we get the loop from slice, not defined. Okay, so now instead of our bevel and outset here, right, we're going to have a original this and what are, like, what's the name? What do we want to call this? Something like loop params. Just call it loop params for now. Okay, so now in here, instead of this, we'll have params. And yeah, see, now we're not using we're only using outside bevel here, so now we can replace this with loop from slice new and loop params. And let's see if we get a pair of boots here. Yep. All right, cool. So that is working. Now let's see if we. This is one of my favorite songs on this playlist. If we swap it out for the Catmull Rum spline method, we should instantly be able to see that here, right? So here's our original method. Now, let's see here. And see, this is what I was kind of picturing being able to do, is like, just when you parameterize stuff like this, it makes it really easy to toggle between different things for comparison. So here we can basically, you know, pretty much any outset is going to work. So we can reduce the outset and let's see here, probably alpha of 0.5. Let's see here. Oh, was there another? There wasn't another. Let me just do a quick Google search here. Yeah, I don't think there. Yeah, I don't think there is tension. Because alpha. We're not really going to have this kind of situation. But we'll just try this. So yeah, there's our Catmull ROM spline boot. And let's just try, is alpha 0 gonna do what I think? Yeah. Yeah, where we that's funny, so we get kind of a point there, but if I do alpha 0 with only one sub, that should basically be, yeah, it basically just fits exactly. So like something like, yeah, see there's this, they have this nice property. I was looking for a spline method that did this, where you were guaranteed to pass through the original points. This is almost exactly what I want without extra fiddling. It's so cool. And the problems here with these boots are actually more with the underlying geometry. So if I can get the feet, actually I should just do that. I should just make the feet a little wider, and that would probably fix things. But something like this can kind of tweak alpha to be what you want. See, I've got some other nice methods too at my disposal. So you can crank this up and get nice, yeah. Let's just make that foot wider while we're at it. Yeah, it's so weird. I have this all parameterized as so goofy. Yeah, see? That right there looks more right. Okay, so yeah, okay, so this is basically working for boots, and that went pretty well. So I think alpha of 0.5, yeah, is kind of like gonna be our default, but with 3 subdivisions. Oh no. No. And we don't need that big of an outset. Let's see if that fixes that. Nope. Oh, nice. Look at here. Here's the parameter that we need. Let's bump this guy up a little bit. See if that fixes our... Oh, that's not what I want. Oops. This one. Oh. Okay, I'm looking at the wrong thing. It's this one. Yeah, okay. That's the one that I want to mess with. Jeez. So, this I want to be... Yeah, because the the origin of the foot is the top. So we want actually this to be just a little higher, and that should fix that. Oh. Oh, I see what's going on. This is bugging me. Go on from this in just a second. It's just bothering me a little bit. Yeah, okay, yeah. This needs to be... So this needs to be further down. Oh, this is tricky. Okay. We're gonna solve boots some other time. We can always fall back on our old boot method if we need to. Because the problem is that, yeah, we're connecting up. Okay. I'm gonna fall back on our old boot method for now. Let's see here. Okay, well, win some, you lose some, but at least we've got our toggleable new method in here now, right? Yeah, okay, cool. Alright, so we've got boots. That appears to be working. So, and I don't think I can view these. Let me just see if I can and what it would take to view them. Okay, I think I've just got to do this little song and dance. Yeah, okay. Okay, so now we can kind of step through this clothing as we're updating stuff. Okay, and I'm going to get rid of those extra biz things here. Wait a second. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay, that was it. Okay. Okay, so there's our boots in context. All right, so next, the coat. It's gonna fail as expected. Okay, so I think the coat. The coat is interesting because I have a... Yeah, okay, this is interesting. So I am using the same outset for the torso here. And then yeah, I've got a separate thing for the torso and sleeves. So, okay, what am I calling this thing again? Let's see. So, we've got, yeah, loop params. Okay, so we want basically the torso loop params, and then we want the sleeve params. And the way this looks, right here, anyway, is that the way this looks is that we've got actually swap these guys around. We've got an outset, but no bevel defined for either, and I mean, I know we're using a bevel, so we're gonna have to bring that constant up here. So this is a good refactor. So the outset was 0.1. Bevel is none for now. Same thing here. Original outset. Okay, now we just need to trace through and find where these things are used. Keep that open for reference. Coat. Okay. So this is going to become our torso loop params. This is going to become our sleeve loop params. Alright, so, and we can view the torso here when we get it. Okay, so instead of outset, we've got loop params. And this is just as simple as return loop from slice new to plain z loop params. Now, I think that should get us our coat torso. Yep, there's our coats torso. Okay, so coat torso is done. And sleeve is gonna be, and I'm next to positive that we've got a hard-coded bevel in here, so we'll see here. Yep, there's our hard-coded bevel. So we're gonna bring this guy back up here. We're defining that there. And oh my gosh, this is actually a lot less of a mess than I was imagining it's going to be. I was kind of picturing that this would work, but you don't want to assume. Okay, so let's check now. Do we get our... Yes, okay. We've got our boots and our coat. Now, here's what's the power of this, right? So now we can swap this guy out with our spline version here with like no offset, an alpha of 0.5 and a subs of 3. Bang, we get our Catmull rum sleeves. And see, we can go crazy with this, right? This is the exciting thing. Right, it's basically, yeah, and we brought that, we're bringing hard-coded stuff out too, which is good. So we could do 2 if we want a lower poly look. That's kind of nice. I kind of like that. Okay, so and if we want them a little bit bigger, we can bump this up, right? This is going to look more like it did before. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we've got the loop params. We've gotten rid of this hard-coded stuff there, so okay, so get rid of this. Okay, what next? Okay, the pants. Pants, all this is hard-coded here. So just loop params equals clothing dot loop original 0.1, and we're gonna make this configurable. And again, I'm pretty sure we have a hard-coded bevel here that we'll want to bring out. Okay. Pants. Rams. As soon as I get the female character working, all the clothes, I've got to fix the type of loop params. It's making me nervous. I don't have a proper type for that yet. Okay, loop from slice. Yep, and there's our hard-coded bevel. Again, we'll bring that guy up. And from slice new. I was worried that I was going to be like using these parameters and extra places and different things. There's definitely hard-coded stuff in here that shouldn't be hard-coded, but at least this particular thing. Oh yeah, here we go. So this is so yeah, here, because Yeah, we can just pull this from params here. That should be fine. Yep, and there's our pants. Do they look like they did? I think so. Okay. There's a bunch of extra crap in here that I need to get rid of. This, man, this whole clothing thing was a really long slog, but it's pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting where it got to. Just gonna drop this here, so can use that in the other. Make sure this still works. Okay, yep, and then we're failing there. So let's just make sure that there she is. Yep, and we've got this little issue here. But see, again, this is the awesome thing. So we can just go, and I know exactly where to fix it. I can just toggle back to the original. And I think that's looks a little thick. Maybe that's just because I was looking at the version. Let me just compare this with my screenshot from yesterday. Nope, I think that's right. Okay. All right, well, so we've got the female character working. Let's keep going and see if we can finish the rest of this off. It's going to take obviously a little bit more work, I think, to get the improved configuration for some of these things, but that's, you know, I'm not expecting this to be completely not expecting this to be like completely hands off, because I want to like programmatically control and tweak things. And okay, let's just see, because I think the only thing that I have to fix here is this shirt. We'll redo the belt stuff with a different method. So let's see, shirt. Let's see, where's his pants? Where's his pants? Okay, there's the pants. Okay, so that should be good. The shirt torso should take loop params. This is simple again. From slice. Hey, so Andrew X98 asks, what are you doing? So I am working on programmatic low poly clothing for games and 3D printed action figures. I'll have something up and running here in just a second that I can show you live. But basically we're making these characters like this. And these aren't manually modeled, they're made with Python code. And I'm working on some refactoring and improvements to the Python code that I'm using to make the clothes. And the clothes are designed to be flexible. So like if you have an underlying character that has certain proportions, you can say make them a coat or a shirt or whatever, and it kind of fits them with some manual tweaks required, but for the most part should kind of like fit the limbs in different poses and stuff. So I'm reworking the method that I'm using to kind of generate the outline of the different parts of the clothing around the different underlying body parts. So this just will become loop params here. And I think we should have our Andrew says, that's something new, interesting stuff. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, okay, so here we go. So we've got this new approach working. Now, the main reason that I actually, like the most glaring issue that I was having was with the pants. So let's actually tweak that default pants configuration to use the spline approach. And because let's see here, yeah, so spline, because we can basically cut that outset way down, use an alpha of like, yeah, 0.5 and the subs even of 2, and I think we're gonna get a better looking pants. Yeah, okay, so we need to increase the outset a little bit, just because it's too tight. But let's see here, we could do, I bet this might even do it. Yeah, and see, it's fast to iterate. Yeah, there's some issues here, actually. You know, I bet it's a little, it's not terrible. I wonder. See, we can just kind of iterate on things a little bit here now. Now that I have this Can we come up with a configuration that still plays nice with the boots? And let me just see, like if I yeah, see, these could still be tighter, but let me see here. I think there's also there's room. Yeah, see, these are too close together. There's no gap. They're too big. There's, yeah, see, like the limbs are too big. So I'm wondering if, yeah, I mean, like some of this is not the clothing method so much as the underlying limb proportions too. Yeah, like look at the size of the calves compared to the thighs here. I wonder, and then let's see here, because I'm doing this thing too for the pants where I'm like pulling them in. For the sake of the boots. But we just don't have a lot of slack there. I almost wonder if this is yeah. But see, we have this flexibility now to experiment with these different approaches, and I could even come up with some other alternate approach. See, I wonder if not that I want to use this necessarily, but yeah. Interesting. Okay. So, all right. Thanks, Free Narnians heading out. Thanks for hanging out. It's always good to see you in the chat. Hope you had good luck with your painting. Yeah, this is, looking at this, I feel like this is really more of a limb proportion issue here, especially with the male figure than with the clothes specifically. Let me just check the pants function. I might be able to fudge something here because I'm using this extra inset on doing this. Yeah, I need to clean this up, because I think let me just add this extra inset to the new one, see what it looks like. Yeah. Yeah, so this is the rib that I want, but thigh top, bologna. Okay, it's just gonna. This is kind of a hack, but this should get us a little extra around those boots. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, cool. That is basically just, oh geez, and I didn't even, yeah, okay, that is basically just what I was after. Yeah, okay, so that just gets us a little bit extra. And see, this isn't perfect, but I've got to fiddle with this a little bit more. Yeah, I mean, yeah, just like some general like fudging of this stuff probably would work. And I probably shouldn't spend too much time fudging it because I'm still making some revisions to the underlying geometry. Like you could see, the female character's got a better stance where she's actually got a better like gap between her legs and stuff. So I don't know though. I think this is. I could probably try to print. Okay. Let's just take a look. Let's just take a look at that belt. That belt is the main thing that's bugging me now about this guy. And see, I've got a better approach for this now too with the projecting vertices rather than slicing. So I can also just fiddle with the belt a little bit. the belt. Oh, this is the outside. Yeah. Yeah, see, that's a pretty easy fix, honestly. Yeah, it just needed a little bit more. Yeah. Oh yeah, and this doesn't even have a print mode, so got to fix that before printing the guy. But let's just quick check and see what so this print mode now is getting into what the characters would look like if they're going to be 3D printed. So we've got all of the clothing parts solidified. Yeah, the belt doesn't have a print mode yet. These pants definitely need some tweaking, but I'm not gonna mess with that too much before. And we gotta just put them both into action figure. Yeah, and I need like a better action figure leg stance, but I think it's just his hips aren't wide enough. I need to revisit my Loomis proportions. The other thing too that we're gonna have to do, and I gotta look at how. Actually, just 1 second. Gotta find some reference for how action figures with collars are sliced, but I think I want to do something. I can do something a little bit more subtle than the just stick it on top of the collar that we see. With retro figures, because I want to have the neck. I want to have the neck inside the collar, so I can't do this slice across like that. I've got to do something where I slice inside. Unfortunately. So, yeah, not quite ready to print, but we are getting there. Let's just take some time now to clean up after ourselves here. Nice, quite a few people watching at one point there. Okay, let's clean stuff up. So what are some ways that we want to clean up? I mean, this all seems to be working. let me just testify. Oh, I know what we gotta fix. We gotta fix. There's kind of like a couple of integration test type things that are going to be broken. But first, let's get that type in here for loop params is a union of loop original and loop spline, and then there's going to be some any's here that we can replace with rams. Okay, and then I'm going to get rid of all of these outset commented out here because I'm very happy with how this seems to be working. Yeah. Okay. In general, there's a lot of stuff in here that I need to clean up. Let me just see if there's anything immediately obvious that I can get rid of here. What was I using? Yes, that's probably. I like to sort of keep sets of changes related though, so okay, let's just make sure everything's still working here with our test bench, and then we'll try that integration test. So it's going to be the kit viewer clothing is going to be broken. Okay, so some of this actually is change that I made the other day. Oh. Take care of that one. And then here's where we're just going to basically swap these in with our new defaults. So oh, it's this. Sleeve params. Some of this stuff is a little redundant, but that doesn't hurt. Okay, yep. Okay, so we've got our integration tests going. Let's see if anything else broke. And I don't know if we need... Yeah, it looks like that's working as expected. There's a couple of those things that are failing right now. I don't think... Something I could do is kind of search for, like, if there's extra bevel values floating around. But it kind of doesn't look like it. Oh yeah, and we can clean up our original stuff here. So get rid of this guy. There. Oh crap. Yeah. Okay, and that. Yeah, this is kind of a nice test. Okay, this is interesting. This is like an old version of this, which is only used in this old cloak method, and yeah, so that's something that we need to get rid of eventually. That's kind of on the backlog. Let's see here. And okay, we can get rid of this guy now. And this experimental method wasn't anything that I feel like I need to save. So okay. So our test is working. As expected. Print mode is working for these characters. Let's just test. I am invoking the one character in my script that generates all the models for the game. And let's just make sure that that's still working. And we can actually look at her in the game. Jeez, I can't type anymore. It's too late at night. And yeah, I need to add a double-sided. Actually, you know what? Should we see if we can do that quick? I forget how I... stops. Two-sided equals true. Sided equals true. Alright, let's see if that works. Yeah, okay. That should probably not, well, whatever. Okay, so yep, and we gotta get her hair too. I'll be very happy if this works. If it doesn't work, I'm still going to bed. Okay. Yes, it worked. Great. All right, well, that was a pretty productive time. Definitely a couple more things to do before I'm ready for the next set of things to print. Specifically, figuring out how to do the neck with the collar. I have several different methods for separating parts and cutting parts and putting them back together. I'm tempted just to print it up in one piece like a little statuette, just to sniff out other problems, but I think at any rate, I think we've done enough for tonight. So thanks for everybody who hung out and watched. And if you haven't watched my stuff before, I have a lot of similar videos to this on my channel where I'm working on stuff for my game using Python to do programmatic 3D modeling. The humans and clothing is kind of a new thing for me, which which is why I haven't done it so much on my channel. But I have a lot of videos where I'm doing like more hard surface type modeling, spaceships, level interiors, stuff like that, and some game programming and some other stuff too. So if this is at all interesting to you, make sure to check that out. A lot of stuff there. So but thanks again for hanging out. I hope that you're making progress on your technical and creative projects, and have a good evening.